Ladies and gentlemen in the press, there was a statement by Azimio La Umoja, Kenya Coalition Party, on 1 year. I think I need to start again. We have a statement by Azimio La Umoja, one Kenya Coalition Party, dated September 15th, 2023. It's been a grand disaster. We have had a meeting with the full house of Azimio La Umoja, one Kenya Coalition Party, that focused on 3 areas, namely, to receive and review a report on the status of the national dialogue talks, to assess and share with Kenyans our take on 1 year of Kenya Kwanza regime, and to analyze the general health of our nation 1 year since Kenya Kwanza imposed itself on our people. Today, we will confine ourselves to 2 areas of concern. That is the management of the economy and its impact on the cost of living, the management of education. In the past 1 year, that is September 2022 to September 2023, Kenyans have been treated to loud claims and boasts on how great we are doing as a nation. We have been made to believe that we are first in Africa, and that we are beating our quiet neighbors in every aspect of competition, that the future is guaranteed. As the sun set on the first year of Kenya Kwanza, it is clear that no amount of oratory or extravagant claims can hide the harsh fact that we have had an extremely disastrous and difficult one year, and there is no reason whatsoever for Kenyans to believe that the next 1 year will be better. Ghanaian economist and opposition leader Dr. Mamadou Bawumia told his country, and we quote, "The lesson from history is that you cannot manage the economy with propaganda. In fact, you can engage in all the propaganda you want, but if the macroeconomic fundamentals are weak, the exchange rate will expose you." Unquote.
Oh, yeah.
We can add that the cost of goods and the cost of living will expose you.
Yeah.
Despite the rhetoric, despite the eloquent words and the confusing figures, Kenya Kwanza has been badly exposed on all fronts. As we begin the 2nd year of Kenya Kwanza regime, it is clear we are in a reckless race to the bottom. At midnight, the cost of diesel went up by 21 Kenya shillings. Paraffin exposed Kenya Kwanza when its price went up by 33 shillings. Petrol exposed Kenya Kwanza after rising by 16 shillings higher. You cannot manage economy via propaganda. 1 year, all indicators point to the fact that life is deteriorating, not improving. The cost of every item that is basic to life has gone up. In the last 1 year, the following have happened. 1, the price of 1 kilogram of sugar has gone up by 61%. 2, the price of 1 kilogram of loose maize flour, has gone up by 9.6%. 3, Rent for a single room rose by 2.8%. 4. The price of 2 kilograms fortified unga has gone up by 8.1%. 5. 50 kilowatts electricity has gone up by 68.7%. 6. 200 kilowatt electricity has gone up by 48.8%. 7. 1 liter of kerosene has risen by 31.1%. 8. A liter of diesel has risen by 28%. 9. A liter of petrol went up by 22.1%. 10. Wines and spirits went up by 9%. We hasten to add that these price rises were before the development of last night. Given the rise in fuel after last night, we estimate that these prices will go up by up to 70%. We are staring at a straight second disastrous year under Kenya Kwanza. In 1 year under Kenya Kwanza, our currency, that the Kenya shilling, the once mighty currency in the region, has received severe beating. The shilling has lost a quarter of its value against the US dollar in 1 year. The shilling lost 20% of its value against the Tanzanian and Ugandan shillings. In August 2022, the shilling was trading at 120 for 1 US dollar. A year later, the shilling is trading at 150 against US dollar. And if you go to the banks, they sell it to you at 154. The fall of the shilling comes with a great price that includes escalated costs of imports, including food. It puts tremendous pressure on parents seeking to take their children abroad or those who want to seek treatment outside the country. The free fall of the shilling is therefore a grand betrayal of the people of Kenya by the Kenya Kwanza regime. Given the state of economy and the prices they made during the campaign and the promises they made during the campaigns, Kenyans would have expected that Kenya Kwanza would cut down expenditure and borrowing. The regime did the complete opposite. Kenya Kwanza increased spending by 400 billion shillings, spending money it does not have and raising it by extorting more taxes from the suffering Kenyans. The taxes rose at a time the overall economy has been contracting. In the second quarter of 2022, which is the first era of Kenya Kwanza regime leading into 2023, the economy grew by only 5.2%. In a similar period in 2021, it grew by 11%. The regime resorted to more borrowing, ignoring the warnings that we are in debt distress and at the risk of debt default. Without blinking an eye, the regime went against its promises to reduce borrowing and did the complete opposite. Kenyans responded to this turn of events by trying to steady their businesses, especially the small enterprises. But those efforts were in vain as interest rates rose rose through the roof, and more taxes hit those businesses. Only the government can now afford to borrow at the astronomical rate of 17% or more from the domestic market. In other words, the government is competing with the private sector in the domestic financial market. The result has been that micro and small businesses are struggling, defaulting, and folding up, while the larger private sector is at best stagnating or equally folding up. In the last 1 year, the proportion of micro and small businesses defaulting on loans has increased by 17%. Today, 6 out of 10 micro and small businesses are either paying late, paying only a part of their installments, or are unable to pay. Inflation is driven by the cost of food and fuel. As long as the government has not resolved the price of food and fuel, the cost of living will not come down. No amount of fertilizer will lower the cost of food as long as the cost of fuel is unchecked. Diesel is one of the highest costs in farming. Even if you give the citizen a bag of fertilizer, but make it impossible for her or him to plow an acre of land, you have not solved the problem. The shilling taking the grains like maize, wheat, and rice that we import, those commodities have increased by 25%. As the economy has suffered, another grand betrayal of dreams and aspirations of our country has unfolded silently in the education sector. As a party, we believe that we cannot neglect education no matter the magnitude of the economic challenges which we are grappling with. We believe that if we are not to spend if we are to spend just on one thing, it should be education. In 1 year, Kenya Kwanza has thrown the education sector into a deep financial crisis. In public, Kenya Kwanza administration continues to talk about free education. The reality in our schools and homes across Kenya is that education is no longer free, either in primary or secondary schools. Inadequate funding is growing into a full-blown crisis in primary and secondary schools, forcing head teachers to beg from well-wishers to help finance schools, straining parents further, and threatening the high enrollment reached in recent years as many students are sent home for school fees. Although academic year is coming to an end, the funds that have been released to schools are way below what was required. In some of the schools, the government has disbursed as low as 15,000 shillings for a student population of 400. Some schools received as low as Kenya shillings 3,000. We are, however, very concerned that under the Kenya Kwanza, education and the country are getting compromised by mismanagement, lack of clarity, lack of interest, and weak leadership in the sector. Verbally, education field officers have been instructed to work with schools' PTAs and BOMs and approve measures to help schools raise funds for their operations. For schools, this only means raising school fees. As a result of weak leadership, examination integrity is back as an issue in our education. Implementation of the CBC curriculum is in chaos. Mismanagement persists as key institutions like the TSC, the KNEC, and the ministry itself. Inequality between public and private schools is rising. The quality and capacity of day schools is deteriorating. But more worrying is that parents are being forced to pay for this chaotic and poor quality education. In the first 1 year under Kenya Kwanza, the cost of education has gone up by 225%, but the quality is not guaranteed. Fellow Kenyans, this has been a disastrous 1 year under Kenya Kwanza, and we have no good new or encouraging words to offer. There are strong indications that the things will get worse or remain the same. We, however, refuse to ask you to tighten your belts. You have done enough. The ball is squarely in the court of the regime. They either act or await the fate that has fallen other insensitive and incompetent regimes across the continent.
Yeah.
End of statement.
It's as clear as that. Can you add on the university education?
On this issue of education, it's even worse in the university. They have come up with grading and basically grouping students in terms of means and so on, and that they're required to pay 7%. Quite a number of those students are actually being sent home,
Yeah.
because the administration in various public universities are insisting on advance payment before admission.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, that is very true. And as you know, we are going to be giving you another statement tomorrow on the issue of the dialogue, which is ongoing. But of course, our number one agenda was the cost of living. It is still there. Of course, the other side has been making statements that they don't want it to be discussed. But we have insisted that it must be agenda item number one in the talks. And the other one is the issue of electoral justice, which is very central to our coalition. And that must also be on the agenda. So there will be a statement coming again tomorrow. But I also want you to know that we will tomorrow be also giving our own assessment of the overall performance of Kenya Kwanza government this 1 year, our scorecard. That will be coming up tomorrow.
Ladies and gentlemen of the media, I think let's wait for tomorrow. There will be another statement. Yes, ma'am.
The government says the reason for the increase in fuel is global, global surge in oil prices. But a few months ago, the Kenya Kwanza government signed a deal with Gulf countries for oil importation. And they said this deal would reduce the demand on the dollar, which means then the shilling would come down and also reduce the price of fuel as well. What does the opposition make of this promise that was made by Kenya Kwanza?
I mean, and as far as you're concerned, that is really the cause of the problem you're having when they interfered with the OTS. And I'm talking to you as somebody who has been a minister for energy in my other early incarnations. so that is the cause of the mess that we're having. They say that we are going to do a G2G and that they're going to pay in Kenya shillings. Now you ask yourself, what are the Arabs in the Middle East going to do with Kenya shillings? It's falling down. So the time, as we say, the chicken are coming back home to roost here. So that's bad policies implemented by this government has put us where we are here. And it is unfortunate that it's the Kenyans who are innocent Kenyans who are basically now suffering when those who are responsible are globe-trotting, looking at coffee in Colombia. I mean, and the tigers, they're moving around when the Kenyans are suffering. It's very, very unfortunate indeed.
Thank you very much. See you tomorrow. Thank you.